Go.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Real Stories of Hurting Moms. I'm Cathy Taylor, and I have my friend Dana here with me tonight.
Hello.
I'm so excited. Dana's been here before, but it's been a while. And before we get started and before we talk to you and have you talk to the ladies, I have a couple things. First, let us know where you're watching from. That's always fun. We always like to know where you're watching from. And then also, is this your first time to watch, or are you a longtime viewer? We have a lot of moms every week. Seems like there's moms that are watching for the very first time, and there's also moms that tune in every week. So let us know about that. And again, if you let us know where you are, I get so excited because we have moms from all over the United States. We'll have New York, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Minnesota, South Dakota, Wisconsin, and then lots of Canadian moms. And I always say, if you're in Canada, if you're watching in Canada, you could put the little emoji of the Canadian flag. Just kind of brighten up those comments. It's pretty cool. So anyway, another thing I wanted, before we start talking to Dana, and Dana's led several groups, and we're going to talk about that, but I wanted to talk to you all about the groups, the Breaking Free groups. This is where the real healing takes place, where you're given tools that will help you move beyond the pain and the shame and the guilt and all the other emotions that we experience when we're hurting over a child. And I can't even stress it enough how life-changing it is to go through one of those groups, to be in community with other moms. And we're on community here where you can see me and see the guests that I have and comment to each other. But being in a group for 10 weeks where you're face-to-face with other moms that you grow to love and trust and pray for, it's an amazing experience. And so those of you who are watching who have been in a group, maybe you're in a group right now, or maybe you've been in one, or maybe you're leading one, I would love for you during the course of this broadcast to come up with one word. What is one thing that you got out of the group in a word? You see if you can do it in one word. We were trying to think of some of those things, and I'm not going to tell you what they are because we need your words, but I want to, one word for what did you get out of being in the group? So anyway, with that, I want to hear from Dana. Like I said, Dana, you went through a group. What's a little bit of your story? You're a hurting mom.
I am. Yeah. You want my story of leading groups or just being a hurting
all
mom?
of it. So what led you to hurting moms? I mean,
at the time I was with the ministry, and I just knew that I wanted to lead a group. I'm a huge supporter of support groups because it was a big part of my healing, my recovery. And so when I found out about this, and I just knew right away, because I'm a hurting mom. And I'm like, this is a perfect group. And even though I hadn't gone through your book or anything, I just knew that I wanted to lead this group, that it was perfect for where I was, the journey that I had been on, and that I still was a hurting mom. So even though I had some recovery and I had some healing, where I felt confident enough that I could facilitate a group, I was still just like the women that were going to be in the group, I think, which is huge, because for me, when you go into groups like that, you have somebody that you think has got it all together and everything worked out, and they're not, it's hard to relate to that. So I was right there in the trenches with them. So it was very easy to go through, and there was so much healing, things that I thought I had gone through and overcame in that going through your book, there was still some stuff, so there's always different seasons that we're in, and you go through each one of those chapters, and you realize there's still some work that God has to do in this area that I either didn't want to deal with, or he just wasn't ready for me to kind of work through. So that's why it was so great, because, just having the education behind it, but just being like the women, I think that's good for.
I remember, I came and visited your group.
For a party.
They had a party. Let me tell you, they had a spread down there. So I was like, when's your next group? So yeah, and you had such a great group of women,
Yeah.
and they all went around and shared, and it's such a blessing to me to be able to hear that. A couple of people have responded to that question. Terry says community is something she got out of it, and Sandy says fellowship. So that's so. And here somebody says freedom from the backpack full of guilt, shame, blame. Boy,
yeah.
That's.
When you are asking the question, I thought, because we were trying to think of names, and the first hint was relief. There's something, there was a huge amount of relief to be, when it's, knowing that you're not alone, but to have a place to come every week, have accountability, and to be with other women that are hurting too. There's just some relief about that. At least, one day a week you can go to a place where everybody else is in the same boat as you are, in different ways, but it's all the same. We have, so relief is a good one word for me with the. Yeah,
that is, I think that is because when we've been hurting like we are, and we go to bed with that knot in our stomach, and we wake up with it, and we're tied up in knots all the time. I mean, it is a relief from that. And it's not about our kids getting better. It's not necessarily that their situation changes, but we change and we learn how to handle it. I just want to make sure people can everybody still see us on there? Is everybody on there? Hurting, Shanna says, hurting about what? Shanna, we're talking about hurting about our kids. This group is for moms that have kids that, there's so many different reasons, really, but the situations vary, but the pain that we have when we're the mom is the same. And these are kids, many moms have, their kids have turned their backs on them, they're estranged, or sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's different lifestyle, there's so many different things. So, but it's for, if you're hurting over your child for any reason, this is a good place to be. So yeah, Shanna said, yes, relief. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So, so you led a couple of groups, and then you, and you're still in contact. Are you still in contact with those women?
Yeah. So I moved far away, so I haven't had a group for probably a year now. But we still keep in contact. There's still the encouragement. Still get updates on our kids, and where we're at, and we still share. I get a bunch of stuff from the ladies that are sharing the progress that they have, and every time they call, if they're in a different season or they're struggling with something, I always point them first back to the Bible, because Jesus is the one that heals, and then to the Hurting Moms book, and I'll say, go back and read through, chapter 1 or 7 or whatever, and because even if they're not in a group, they still went through the book, they still have the book, so go back and just read through it again, and that's always helpful, that we, that you can kind of go back and then encouraging them to get into another group, even though, because I think a lot of women, they share so much in that 10 weeks that it is, that the thought of going into a new group and having to air it all again, that's overwhelming for women, and they just don't want to do it. So they don't go to any other groups, so I think as a leader of those is to encourage women, that they have healing under their belt, and that they should join a new group and share what they've learned and be part of a new community. And so I just try to encourage, because it's not easy, for us to do that.
But you know what? It's harder to stay isolated. I mean, so many times in this situation, we isolate, we don't want to talk to anybody, we don't go anywhere. And in the long run, that is what's really going to suck the life out of us. If we go in and we get into community with each other, it gives us life. I think it gives us life. Another thing is, for those of you out there that have been in groups already, I want to encourage you to think about starting a group. A lot of people go through online groups because they don't have a group in their area. Well, once you've been through a group, and if you've had a certain amount of healing, maybe you can start a group in your church or in your community. And so I really want to encourage people to do that, because there's such a huge need for them, but we need more people to step up and lead them. Deborah says she's used the book as a resource in times of need too. So it's just an ongoing thing. And I mean, we have that thing where things go well for a while and we feel pretty good, and then all of a sudden, like I always talk about, the other shoe drops. All of a sudden it's like, oh, you're kidding, I'm right back here again. And but when you have, we've done this with online groups. A lot of times we do private Facebook pages, and so when something happens, that kind of throws us again, we have people to reach out to. You have people to reach out. You have people that are praying for you. Whereas we don't have that before we go into a group. So,
right. Yeah.
I really, I don't know. I can't say enough about it. I saw Carol Martell on there. Carol is, she was in a group, one of the first online groups that I led, and she's in Nova Scotia.
Oh,
so it's like 10 o'clock at night her time. Hi, Carol. It's really late, but it's fun. When we do the online groups, a lot of times people will be in their pajamas, sitting on their bed. You'll see all these headboards of beds, and you just can be yourself. It's so wonderful. Well, after you led a couple of groups and you started a ministry. You started a ministry. So why don't you tell us about that, the name of it? And we have links. By the way, there are links above the video, one for joining a group if you're interested in joining a group, and then there'll be one for her ministry called Overcome. But why don't you go ahead and share what that's about and why you started it and what the purpose is and all that stuff.
Yeah. So just quickly, because I think I just have this desire to share more about the hurting moms, like some stuff. It just maybe to encourage leaders, people that.
Well, go ahead and do
but
that.
the Overcome is it's God birthed the ministry, and then is allowing me to just shepherd over it. So it's been amazing. We had our first women's event in August of last year, and Cathy was a part of that. And we're now going into 2019, and we are seeing what God is going to do with us this year. And really, it's kind of funny. It kind of goes along with hurting moms. It's a ministry, for women that are hurting. In the same aspect is, we want to come alongside churches and exhort and encourage and help women that are hurting. So Overcome really is a resource ministry. So there's all kinds of different things, that, and I don't know what God has planned for the next thing. I know we're getting together and gathering for prayer, because I just believe 100% this is God's ministry. This is God's deal. And I look to him for guidance. Just like with the first event, it was like, I have no idea what I'm doing and why, but I just want to serve God. And this is the arena he gave me. And so I think, again, my testimony and my walk and the story that God's given me is the lead up to this, where I can be over ministry and I can share, just like with hurting moms. That's why it's just, when I saw it, I'm like, I just have to do that. And that's the great part of it, is that when you start walking through and you do these support groups and you start getting healing and you want to help other women. And that's really my desire. That's where the ministry came from, is just this strong desire to want to help women and to want them to see that there is light, there is hope, there's, and you do it as long as you walk with Jesus, And so that's what I love about hurting moms, is that, there's so much scripture in it, and it's always pointing you back to the Bible. That's the best, one of the best things about it. So, but I don't know, maybe it's God. So, but I want to encourage leaders, anybody out there who is maybe hearing this for the first time, maybe you've been considering facilitating a group. I'm hoping that one of the things God's going to do tonight in hearing from me is the encouragement to step out. Because when we say we want to serve God, we always have our own plan that, okay, God, I'm going to serve you, but I want to do it at Disneyland, and all these fun things, right? Yeah. But God is just waiting for a willing heart. He doesn't have any requirements for us, but to just come to him with a willing heart to say, I'm going to show up and I'm going to serve you. And then we let God do the rest of the work. And so one of the great things that I want to share with anybody who's thinking, and even leaders who have been leading it, because as you know, sometimes it could get discouraging when we start thinking, well, who's going to show up? How many people are right? Because we're women, and we all usually have rejection issues. So it becomes about us, and it really isn't. Some of the most best times in my group are when it was me by myself and I thought nobody's coming, and one person showed up, and God did some of the most amazing work between two people. So the first encouragement is that it doesn't matter how many people come, whether you have one. We ended up with 21 people in that group, that my very first group. But whether it was 1 or 20, God is still going to do something. And so it's about what he wants to do. You're just saying, I'm going to show up and I'm going to be willing to just do whatever God wants me to do. And the other part of that is one of the women had reached out. This is my very first group. And I kept reaching back out to her and she wouldn't respond. But I am, if you give me your name and email. and then once our group started, I kind of let go for a while. And then we were going to start another one. So I was right back on her again. And she finally came to our second one. And I remember she said, if you didn't reach out again, she was that whole year, I wanted to come, I just couldn't walk in that door. And she said, if you wouldn't have reached out and kept on with me, she said, I wouldn't have come. So the encouragement is, don't feel that you're hounding people or you're being a nuisance. There's a reason that they have inquired about it. So that means they're a hurting mom on some level. Yeah. And they need this group. That they need it because you've gone through it yourself and the amazing things that can come out of it. And so my encouragement is, just keep on reaching out to the women, even if you're on a break with your group. That's a huge thing, that the women look for you in leadership. And that is there's a lot of responsibility that comes with facilitating and leading a group. I think we don't really think about that as much. And that's where a lot of the encouragement comes on, and keep pressing forward. And, whether you're having a good day or a bad day, share. We get group text messages all the time, and so the group continues on even if we're not meeting. But I like the face-to-face because I'm a visual person, and so I like to be able to hug and all that. So I'm excited about starting a new group, and I'm out in like the Temecula area. So if anybody is out in the Temecula area, you can contact Cathy.
California.
Yeah, California. Sorry. I always say everybody's from California.
I know.
But hopefully we can get another one started again. But I just encourage, if it's on your heart to maybe lead a group or just join a group, and there's, you're apprehensive about it, you're not sure, you're scared, you think you're alone and everybody else has different problems, but they're not as bad as yours, because that's how we think, is, just step out in faith. Just do it. Just go to one meeting, get online one time. You can always not go again if you don't want to, but, go in it with an open heart and a willingness to just see what God is going to do. And I think that you will not regret it. It'll be one of the best things that you do, is to join a herd and to know that you're in a community of women. And this Facebook page, watching these videos and interviews. I mean, if you don't know by now that you're not alone, you need to start watching the hurting moms, because you might have a different story than me, but we're hurting. That's what we have in common, and our kids, like Cathy said, it's not about changing our kids, but it's about letting God come in and start healing these areas, because we are no good to our children if we're unhealthy in here. And I say that's one of the big things that I say to the women in my group, is that how are you helping your child when you need help yourself? And so, it's always about redirecting them, right? Because that's where women go, is they think it's a group that they can talk about their kids, and it's not a praying for prodigal group. Those are amazing too, right? But women have such a hard time with redirecting their focus back on God and letting God start healing them. And then they can start seeing their kids in the situation in a whole different light. That's where the relief comes in, It's when we stop trying to fix our kids.
Absolutely.
And being an enabler, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's I think that's where we all start off. That's what hurts us. I've tried for years to fix my child. I've tried for years to fix her. I tried everything, and it just sucked the life out of me. Yeah. And, God doesn't want that for us. He wants us to have a rich, full life too. That's so good. Chris Esposito, her comment passed, but she said, words of wisdom to you. She's, uh-oh. I'm trying to look at the comments. Hide the current comment. Oh my gosh. I don't know how to do
there she is. She's on
there. There it is. Okay, Pam's putting that up there. Okay, sorry.
Thank you.
Technical stuff. Anyway, I just I really appreciate you talking like that, because it's so true that, we get nervous about it, but I have never had a mom join one of these groups. It wasn't just like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad, it's so life-giving. Yeah. And it's easy. We also, have to say this month, this is Heart Month. And so we have to join an online group is there's a discount. And I don't remember what it is, but you can go online, because you need a workbook. You do need a workbook, but it's so worth it. And like
Hi, Jackie.
said, there's Jackie. Hi, Jackie. So yeah, it's, I was remembering something. Did you tell me when I came to visit in your group, did you meet one of the moms? Was it you who met another mom waiting to visit at jail?
Yes, that was our group.
And then you,
yeah, you want me to tell the story? One of the ladies that was attending our group, her son was in jail at the time. So she was visiting him, and there was another lady there, and they just started talking about their sons. And she shared, she said, you have to come to this group. There's this group that I'm going to. And it was funny. They were at jail that day visiting their sons, and she came to the group that night. And this lady, I know I shared this with you, but towards the end of that group, she wasn't saved. And so at the end, we were able to walk her through and she gave her life to the Lord. I mean, it was amazing that,
That's so cool.
It's been an amazing, it's funny.
I remember that. And I think I met her. I mean, the group I came to, I came and visited, and they were telling me this story. Donna's son is still, in jail. So many moms have kids in jail. In fact, in a couple of weeks, I think it might be next week, my guest, we're going to be talking about that specifically when you have a child who's incarcerated. Mm-hmm. And, but there's so many, and that's one of the things that hurts us. But like you just said, it doesn't really matter what the situation is. I mean, it does, it matters to us, but every situation belongs in one of these groups because it's really about the pain that we have. Yeah. And so, but I've always remembered that story, how they were waiting to see their sons in jail, and one of them was in a Hurting Moms group and started talking to the other one about it, and then she showed up to the group that night.
I know, isn't that, I mean, that's when you know that it's
God's
a God
doing
thing.
something.
I mean, of all places to meet somebody and to, so that's why it's encouraging to share, because you don't know who you're talking to but obviously, it's clear that you probably have some hurt, if your kid is incarcerated.
Well, something else that happens, Lisa says, would you mind talking about the strain this hurt places on marriages? Mm-hmm. Do you have anything to say about that?
Well, I think, in my situation, my husband, our daughters are not from each other. So I think it's a little bit different with that. But I think it just is like anything else, is that you get so enmeshed with each other that you have to, and I think you start blaming each other. Sometimes like when there's a death, a child, and you blame the other one and divorce happens. Yeah. And I think nobody wants to take accountability. And so they want to put things on other people. And again, it comes back to, taking the focus off of your kids, off of your husband, whatever and putting it on Jesus, mm-hmm. and focusing on you and what needs to be healed here. And I think that sometimes when we're so focused on our kids, right? And we're learning, we got to not look at our kids anymore. But as women, I have codependent tendencies. I'm an ex-enabler, but it's like our drug. So if we don't have our child there to do it, we need somebody to fill that space. So who are you going to go to, right? But the next closest person. Yeah. So either it's a parent or it could be your husband. And then your focus is now shift on trying to fix that, or trying to,
exactly.
Instead
of just
shifting your focus. So, but I don't have any real words because I don't have that in mind, although, we talk a lot about, my
I think that's a situation for a lot of people. I know it was for us too. It was a step situation. We have a blended family. And I think sometimes that can cause some of the antagonism, because it's like, well, you don't understand, it's not really your kid.
Yeah.
Or it's a lot easier if it's the step kid. It's a lot easier for dad to say, kick her out, or mm-hmm. To be tough, and we're struggling with that. And so then that puts a wedge between us and our husband. Mm-hmm. And so I think that happens, but I totally agree with you. Yeah. The answer to all of it is to put our focus on Jesus, because Carol says, focus on Jesus.
Yeah.
and because that's where we're going to have healing. That's where we're going to find wholeness. That's where we're going to get wisdom. I mean, all of it. And I always say you can't, when I was sick with focusing on my daughter. I was sick with it. I mean, just overtook everything. And you can't bring two unhealthy people, sick people together and expect to have a healthy marriage. Right. And so I was sick over my child, and I kept thinking my husband should be able to fix something or do something or support me in it. And, you know, they're put in a weird position in this, whether it's a stepchild or a biological child. So, that's what Lisa says. When you're on two different pages about what to do with your child, it really affects your marriage. And absolutely it does. Yeah. It affects the whole household. I think often about the siblings. I mean, I had one child that was out of control, but I had other kids that were doing what they were supposed to do, but I didn't pay any attention to them. I was so focused on the one that I hardly paid attention to the other ones. And we talk about that today, but it does. You're right, Lisa. It affects the entire family. Yeah. This whole situation does. Absolutely.
Yeah. Again, I think it comes back to what you're focusing on. You know, in the circumstances of our kids, it may never change. You know, they may never, get clean. They may never, whatever it is that we want them to do. But, you know, what I used to like to tell the women is that, you know, we're not the author of our children's story. God is. And we need to stop trying to write it and try to write the ending, because we really don't know what's best for our kids. I mean, we love our kids, but we don't love them nearly as much as God does. Yep. And we think that we have the answers, you know, a lot of, especially once, you know, nowadays, right? It's the addiction to, and I don't want to be on drugs, and he's homeless, and but you know what, that might just be the place that God needs him to be, on the streets. And how many stories have we heard of people that found Jesus when they were homeless or in jail? So as moms, we don't want them to go to those places, and really for selfish reasons, because it causes us the stress and the pain to watch our kids walk through it. But that might be exactly where God wants them to go. And if we keep on stepping in the way of God, you know, the other, you know, is we have to learn to get out of God's way, right? Because it's like, you know, one person told me once is that, you know, how does your daughter see Jesus when your big head is always in the way? And it's so true. Because, you know, I want her to I want her to be close with God, but really I'm pushing her away. I'm like in the middle. So there's no way she could see him, because I'm such a presence. But that's hard to step away. It is hard. But really what you're doing is stepping away, because you're not helping anyways. And you're letting the one person in who loves your child way more than you do, who knows absolutely what they need in their life at every second of every day. And that's, you know, that's a challenge to learn how to do that, because, and then I still step back in the way. You know, it's not always easy. It isn't like we just, I mean, for sure. I guess we have to get that straight. It's not like either one of us are like completely, hey, we're healed. I mean, I do it all the time too. I think, you know, I say often, you know, so many times we are the ones who get in the way of what God wants to do in our lives. And we talk about hitting a rock bottom, no matter what the situation is. And if we keep providing a safety net, if we keep getting in there so that our child can feel like everything's okay, they're not gonna get better. They've got God, like you said, God meets us so many times at the bottom of the pit, you know. But if we don't let them hit that bottom, you know, God can't get through to them. So that is so true. And another great thing to remember is that you want to help your child, you know, in recovery, but you're not going to help them in their addiction. You know, and that's a huge difference, you know, that you want to help them in recovery, you know, but what we do sometimes, like Cathy said, is we make it okay for them to stay in their addiction, whatever that is, and make it comfortable for them to stay in this place. And yet then we ask ourselves, why are they not changing? But why would they, when we're giving them money and clothes and doing all this stuff for them? There's absolutely no consequences for them. So us as moms, I think that's what's hard, is that we have to watch them walk through whatever path they're going to be on. And God has always reminded me every time I start getting in and I want to redirect her path. And he says, you know, what path were you on? You know, and where was I when you were on the path? Do you think, your mom and your dad wanted you on that path? You know what? And so it's always a great reminder to say to myself, I was not on good path. My mom is with me tonight. She could probably tell you. That's another story. So I was on some bad paths that I'm sure my mom wanted me on a different path, but I don't know what the right path is. I just know that God is gonna direct her, but I don't want to be a part of the addiction. I don't want to be a part of the problem, and so I think that, we have to, watch our kids walk through some difficult things, and
that's another reason why to put the focus on Jesus, because we can sit and watch our kids and think about nothing else but that, or we move on with our own lives and we let the Lord help us with that. I do want to say here, I know that a lot of moms who are watching tonight, the reason you're hurting over your child is that your child is estranged from you. They've turned their back. They've cut you off. They've blocked you on Facebook. They've blocked you on your phone. You're not able to see your grandchildren, which is a whole heartbreak on top of another heartbreak. And so it's not like you're getting to watch them do anything because, you're separated. And I just want to acknowledge that we know there's a lot of you out there that's the reason for your pain. But it's still the same answer, even though you can't see the kids, or we're saying, you can enable them because they don't want you to be able, they won't get close enough. You still can focus on Jesus. You can still turn your focus on the Lord and figure out what it is, because he has something for you to do. God has a plan for all of us. He wants to use all of us. He has a plan. So our job is to find out what that plan is. And so put your focus there. Put your focus on that. And as painful as it, not that the pain's going to go away. That's got to be so painful to be able to know your kid, especially when there's grandkids. There's so many different situations, but and we're already out of time. The time goes so fast. We should do an hour one time. No, they're fine. So, but I'm so thankful to have you here, and you have so much wisdom too. I saw a lot of people. You'll have to go read the comments. And also, well, you're going to have to get Facebook to do that.
I'm on Instagram, Overcome Ministries. So there was one, can I say something? The lady was talking about helping her son. It was about, do you buy him, give him money? Do you give him? And one of the things I would tell moms in my group that were asking the same question is to ask yourself, is it something that's going to help him, or is it going to hurt him? Meaning, is it going to keep him in the place that he's in? Again, you want to help him in the recovery. You're not going to help him in the addiction. So, and there's way more to that than, I know it's trying to be a simple answer, but you can contact me and I would love to share more about that. But in this, you again, keep your comments coming in. This is going to be posted on our Facebook page, so it'll be up there forever, and you can comment on it, and I will go in and try to answer. And if you have something for Dana, I can email it to her or forward, and she'll get back to you. But I just want to thank you all for watching, and it's such an encouragement to us to have you watching. I want to remind you again, it just sounds like I keep harping on this group thing, but honestly, I see the pain. I see, that you say that Celine says wise women. I'm going to tell you, we're wise because we've been through a group, because we've been able to get to a better place. And so we want to share that. The whole reason I started this was God had taught me so much about who he is in the midst of my pain over my child. And I learned how to be okay, even in the middle of it. And I just want to share that. I just don't want any other moms to feel that pain that nobody but us really understands. So that's why we do this. That's why we have the groups. I can't tell you enough times how important it is that you get into a group. So go to there's a link above. Go ahead and click on that and check it out. And check out Overcome. Check out Overcome with Jesus for her Overcome with Jesus. There's the website, Dana's ministry, and there's lots of places and different resources on there and pictures and anyway. So and we may have a retreat, a very intimate retreat, which kind of is a lot about like the hurting moms. So keep watching for upcoming. Keep an eye on that page. So thank you all for joining us tonight. I look forward to this every week. I'll be back next week, and I'll look forward to seeing you then. So take care and have a good week. God bless you. Bye-bye.